Anthony Albanese has flagged that Made in Australia is no jobs bonanza, saying locally made products such as solar panels will be able to compete against Chinese imports. Joining us to discuss today's headlines is ALP National President Wayne Swan, Independent MP, Di Lee. Good morning, guys. Nice to see you. I can feel a big spat coming on today. I can feel it in my bones. Swanee, you're first up. So Labor is asking taxpayers to pour billions into a program that may not work, reducing the cost of living, or categorically lead to reliable, cheaper power. That's a hell of a risk, isn't it?
I don't think it's a risk at all. We're in a global race for jobs and opportunities. We need cheaper energy. We need energy independence. And to do that, we've got to make up for a lost decade in energy policy. From 2014, when the coalition abolished the carbon price, now, though. We've fallen. Well, it is happening now, but it has to happen a lot quicker. And that's what it's about, because the rest of the world are now making these investments. And we not only need cheaper energy for the long term, we need energy independence. And we need independence in our manufacturing sector as well. Okay. So all of those things come together to make us more competitive and stronger.
Di, we don't have the workforce, and if we do, we have higher costs.
We don't have the workforce. We don't have the workforce. Our obviously salary wage is quite high. We don't have the infrastructure for manufacturing. We cannot compete with China. Seriously, we cannot compete with China. And we've seen over the decade all of the imports of solar panels coming to Australia very cheaply. We can't compete. And look, it's all very well and good to say that we can spend, put all 10 billions in setting up all this into manufacturing of solar panels. We are not going to compete with China on solar panels.
Okay, so you're saying none of this works for you? This program can't work?
I don't think it's going to work at all. I mean, seriously, I love how government just make these thought bubble announcements constantly. Honestly, Wayne, I mean, you should know. You've been in government before.
I do know about it. I know how this happened and why we need it. And we need it because we abolished the carbon price a decade ago. And if we're going to get cheap renewable energy, not only for consumers but for industry, we have to do it.
We have to do something, absolutely. But I don't believe that manufacturing solar panels, because we actually do not manufacture. We're an assembly plant. We assemble things here, and it's being manufactured somewhere else. So that is the problem.
And there lies the battleground at the next election, or part thereof. Wayne, the government's hand-picked chairwoman, Danielle Wood, says that without a well-defined exit strategy from all of this, all these billions, it will create a class of businesses that forever are reliant on subsidies. How do you respond to that?
Well, she's completely out of touch with the international reality. I mean, all of our major competitors are doing this. We have to be in it to win it.
But Wayne, we don't have the capital. We don't have the capital to.
Behind.
We don't have the capital to equal countries like America.
Of course we do.
They've tried in the US and look at inflation there.
Of course we do. We have massive amounts of capital in this country. We export capital. What we don't do is make some of the things we need so we can be independent and stand on our own 2 feet. We need the cheaper energy for that. Of course we need the skills. But you can't give up, because if you give up, you'll be left behind.
Okay, it's just on giving up, and we have to be in it to win it, but it's kind of airy-fairy when you're talking about taxpayer dollars, Di.
Oh, look, I mean, I know that the government's already investing. I mean, everything that we do, in government, it is taxpayers' money. I'm funded by the taxpayer. Every single politician is funded by the taxpayer. So everything's funded by the taxpayers' money. So we need to be very mindful. How do we get cheaper energy? Now, Labor promised a cheaper, extra $275 for consumers, for the public. That hasn't been delivered. We need to look at ways that's currently our resources. The mining tax, all of those resources, the money, we should look into that.
But cheaper energy, Wayne. I mean, look at China. I mean, even in the last couple of years, I mean, I think they're producing 47 gigawatts of coal-generated power stations. I mean, it's just a huge amount of energy, and so they can do it cheaper. So the costs are always going to be so much more.
Okay, so you reckon we should depend on China for our energy security?
What I'm saying is the products in China are cheaper because the energy is cheaper and the workforce is cheaper.
And the energy is cheaper here if it's developed. And if we hadn't abolished the carbon price a decade ago, we'd be a lot further down the road of producing much more cheaper renewable energy from the abundant supplies of solar and wind in our country. Plus, there's supplies of critical minerals to give us the capacity to make the goods of this century.
Well, I agree we should have invested into the solar industry decades ago, but the horse has bolted.
It hasn't bolted at all.
It has.
You're giving up on this country.
No, we're not giving up. We're not
certainly
giving
are.
up. Wayne, China is mass-producing solar panels that are dumping here in Australia.
So you want us
We
to
can't
rely on
compete.
China for our
No,
critical
we
energy
can't.
supplies? I tell
Well,
you what.
You know what? China is actually investing in some of our energy here. China has owned some of our energy supply here. Now, government has allowed it to happen. You cannot say now, oh, you know, we're not allowing China in here.
Sorry,
China's
Di.
in here.
Di, you're
China's
completely
here.
out of your depth here.
No,
Seriously.
I'm not.
Wayne.
No, Wayne.